This tutorial will show you how to fix common stop motion problems like camera shake, light flicker, and general set consistency. First of all, I would recommend using lots of tape and sticky tack to keep your set and your camera still at all times. But if you don't have either one of those things, there are still things you can do to keep your set still. One thing that I used to do many years ago when I was starting stop motion was to connect my camera stand to the set so that if my camera happened to move, the set would move with it, and although you might see a background change, it's very subtle. But this doesn't solve the problem if you have a small set that moves a lot. So the next way to stop your set from moving is to have a bigger or heavier set that is harder to bump around. To make your scene bigger or heavier, you can use larger sets, or you can add extra bricks on the sides, or have base plates with books on top of them connected to your scene. Just any way to make your scene heavier so that it's harder to bump. But of course, I would still recommend tape or sticky tack because it's very reliable and it's very easy to use. Now, for camera stability, I'm going to be using a phone here since that's what a lot of people use, and you can apply these same principles to most other cameras. So I build my camera stand out of Lego here, and what I'm doing is using bricks pressed up against the phone to keep it stable, and I pivot the bricks on one stud so I can adjust them depending on how my phone is angled. Then when my phone is tightly positioned between the bricks, I add tape and sticky tack to keep the base from moving, and then I can start taking pictures. As long as the phone does not move whenever I touch it, then I'm good to go. Another very common problem that I had when I was starting stop motion is light flicker. You hear many people say that you should turn off your lights and close your window curtains and use artificial lights like lamps, and yes, I would agree with that, but it's not always 100% important to do those things to get rid of flicker. What you do need to watch out for is any light sources that are behind you, because you will be casting a shadow onto your scene, and since you'll be moving while you're animating, there's a good chance that there will be flicker in your video. That being said, I actually have a window that's behind my table here that's around the corner that I keep open just so that it's not super dark in the room and I can still see things around me. But it's not going to cast shadows onto my set because it's behind and it's not really shining on the scene. As long as you have lots of lights on your scene, I have two here and a couple that are behind the camera. If you can keep your scene very bright, it doesn't even matter all that much if you have windows around the room, because your scene will have so much light already that the windows will hardly make a difference. But I do recommend closing any windows that are behind you. However, if you have a window that's really close to your scene, you might want to close that too, since the sun and clouds can cause a lot of different light changes and you will have more light flicker. Okay, so let's say you accidentally bump one of your lights or your scene or something on the scene. Is there a way to fix it? There are a couple ways, and one tool that a lot of stop motion apps have, like Stop Motion Studio, is called onion skinning, where you can overlay the previous picture on top of the picture you are currently looking at, and you can see the differences between the two pictures. So you can use that tool to align your scene with the previous picture until they look the exact same and then keep animating, or you can use it if you bumped something and knocked something over to put it back where it was before. Let's say you bump something on your scene. Let's say I have two people here. I have one person that's talking, they're moving their arms, I'm moving them around, and then I accidentally bump the person that's not talking. Then what I like to do is try to move them back to where they were, take a picture, and then slowly move them towards the direction I bumped them very slightly so that it looks like a natural movement that wasn't actually a bump. A little bit more advanced technique that I like to use if I bump something like usually trees and leaves, I bump those all the time, but what I like to do is to mask the movement out of the video. So I would take the first picture of the scene and overlay it on top of the tree so that when the tree moves, it will still show the first picture and the tree won't move in the finished video. Since I know that you can't mask on some free apps like Stop Motion Studio, the free version, what I would do to avoid that is to make sure fragile and loose pieces of your scene are out of the way of your hands. So if I have trees back here, I might push them back if I'm moving pieces up here, just so that when my hand comes around, I'm not bumping these leaves, because there's not much I can do to fix that. And if you bumped something and it was so bad that onion skinning can't fix it, you can't find the place it was before, you can change the shot of the scene to a different angle. So if I had my camera here and I was taking pictures of these two minifigures, and then something got bumped, I could come over here and start a new scene, as long as the previous shot was long enough. Otherwise, you might have to restart the shot, but if it was long enough, you can just change your angle and keep filming as if it was an intentional scene change. And those are my tips and tricks that I use to minimize the set movement and keep the set consistent throughout the video. Thank you for watching. If you're looking for more ways to improve your stop motion, check out these videos right here.